We are focused today on lead distribution as a solo agent, which seems like a really simple topic, but there are some pretty cool things that we can cover. Want to be able to tackle some good stuff with you guys, showing you how as a solo agent to use some tools on the platform to prioritize your leads, whether that's based on price point or location or anything else you can think of. Also, how to parse out and potentially send different auto responses to certain leads. If you want to send maybe a more urgent reply to a higher dollar lead, we can do that. If you want to send a different response to your rental type leads, we can do that. And also just an overall strategy to really leverage your Follow Boss account almost as another team member. So we're going to dig into all that today. If you guys have questions, please drop them into the Q&A. The chat is lovely, but the chat as we go along, questions tend to get lost. So if you could drop questions in the Q&A as we go, we'll either tackle them as they happen, or certainly make time at the end. You're welcome to use the chat to say hello or tell us where you're calling from or where you're calling from. I guess that's not how it works anymore. Where you're located. But we're going to dive right in. Jeremy Smith, Follow Boss Success Manager. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure, Lee. First of all, thanks for having me back. So I'm a Follow Boss Success Manager, and I have been with Follow Boss for almost exactly 2 years. Another month and a half, it'll be 2 years. And then I live up in Maine with my family, and happy to be here. This is a fun topic to chat about.
Awesome. Absolutely. Look forward to diving in. My name is Lee Adkins. I'm the head of growth at Amplified Solutions. I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia, where it is a lovely, cool, almost fall-like day. Also, Bridget from my team is here in the chat, so throw her some stuff. She'll help get your questions answered, drop some links in there, and all that good stuff. So, Jeremy, let's dive right in. Can you share your screen? Let's just ready, set, go.
Here we go.
So why don't you tell us a little bit, first and foremost, about how leads get into Follow Boss? Let's begin at the beginning. How do leads get in?
Great. So yeah, absolutely. Let's start with some basics. So there's 3 ways that leads get into Follow Boss. The first way is, well, manually. So you can add leads one by one. You know, there's a button up here at the top. You click the blue button, you can add a person right in. Great for running into that person at the coffee shop who you didn't have in the system before and popping them in. You can also bring folks in through an import. That's a whole nother call. But then leads flow into Follow Boss through lead sources that are connected in a couple of different ways. One way that they flow in is through email notifications. Email notifications from most sources contain data embedded in the email itself. So and we call that metadata. And that metadata is parsed into Follow Boss by our parsers. We have some specific parsers built, and then we have some generic parsers that, we focus in on certain lead sources to make sure we're pulling in, all the information that comes through the lead notification. And then we have some generic ones that if for the smaller sources that we don't have a lot of more traffic from. And then the other way that leads flow in is through an API connection. So literally having a pipeline from a lead source into Follow Boss, that's the most seamless way and the way that can provide more data than just the basic contact information and lead information that comes over. So those are the basics on how leads flow into Follow Boss. And once they start flowing, once any test lead comes in from any website or source that you're trying to connect, or any lead source that you're trying to connect, it's going to come in and it's going to end up on this screen. So all your lead sources should end up here under lead flow, under the admin menu. And on this page is where we're going to be spending our time today talking about how to control this flow, make sure that it's getting the right communication, getting to the right place in Follow Boss, etc.
Awesome. So yeah, so each of these lead flows is obviously connected to a lead source. These are of course fake because this is our demo account. But it always kind of blows my mind that people don't realize that, number one, these happen for different lead sources, but there are advanced rules that you can set up. So in general, when you're on one of these lead flows, the main things they do is like you said, they assign the agent. And so, and this
Yep.
can be a group or a single agent. If it's just you, then it's probably going to be just you, which is fine.
Right.
Let's talk a quick second about a group. If you do think you'll ever grow a team or add another person, you might consider setting up a group, just because it's a great way. You don't have to edit this lead flow every time. So you can set up a group, even if it's only you. And people, I think, always laugh when I say that, but I'm a big fan of having this group set up, even if it's literally only you, because then you don't have to edit that lead flow every time, and that lead flow can be complicated. And so that's just under admin groups. I don't want to spend too much
Yep.
time on that, or if people have questions later, we can dig into that. But and so Jimmy, yeah, if you'll hop back to the lead flow, so the assignment of the lead, potentially the assignment of a lender.
Yep.
So even if you are a solo agent and you have a lender that can help either try to call and convert some of these leads, or you simply want to add a lender once people get to that stage of the process, you can have a lender assigned here automatically as soon as they come in.
Absolutely. And when the lender's assigned as part of the new lead coming in, then your action plans can also be set up to communicate from two different directions. You can actually get those action plans set up to have emails coming from you as the agent and emails coming from your lender at the same time. So that's a really great additional feature. And having a lender as part of your user account does really streamline that transition and can get the lender involved right off the bat. And as Lee said, that's a great step in lead conversion. That's not just a convenience for your lender to know, to have more information and try to convert leads. If the lender, if their first questions are about, how do I afford a new home, then your lender is going to be able to answer those questions and hopefully, tie it all together with you too. So the lender is a fantastic add.
Yeah, and loosely speaking, it acts like a collaborator. That's not totally accurate, but just as an easy way to say it. So
Yep.
it does count as a user. So you would have to pay, or they would have to pay to be a lender in the account, but it limits their access to certain settings and other features. And they would only see the leads that they are a lender on. So they don't see all your leads. For example, I know people that have lenders who pay for either Zillow or part of their YLOPA or part of a certain platform. And so to that point, you can actually control that here. You can say only YLOPA leads,
Yep.
add this lender to every time.
Exactly. Yep. And when we get to the advanced rules, different lenders can be assigned to different portions of a lead flow too, when we get to that section.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great one. So then the third piece of this is assigning an action plan automatically, which
Yep.
I think if you're a solo agent and you don't have action plans running here, your homework before the end of the week, I won't make you do it today, but you got today and tomorrow to add some action plans, even if they're as simple as an auto response going to the person and maybe a 2-day later reminder to you to follow up. Now you will have to create the action plan before you can assign it here.
Right. We have
yeah,
some, if you're not already using them, Lee, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak. If you're not already using them, we have some good basic general communication action plans in your Follow Up Boss action plan library. So if you're not familiar with action plans, go to admin and go to action plans, and plan page will not look exactly like this, but you will see all action plans. And you'll be able to scroll through here and find and see the ones that we've authored and we're providing for you as part of your account. There's some good basic stuff. One of the simplest is down at the bottom, and it says Zillow, Trulia, Realtor. It doesn't mention any of those platforms. So if you're getting leads from somewhere else, it's just a good general outreach action plan to start with.
Totally.
It's for
I
buyer
think,
leads, though.
yeah, it always just hurts my heart when I see people that don't have any action plans, because again, even if it's just a reminder to you, but if you're a solo agent, you should absolutely at least have some sort of auto response going out, whether it says, hey, I'll be in touch shortly, or, just acknowledging in this day where speed to lead is everything. Even if it just says like, hey, when's a good time to talk? Or, if it's a property inquiry specifically, you can say, hey, do you want to set time to go see this? Just leverage that tool. I think too many people worry about all the possible scenarios. And quite frankly, even if it says something stupid for that scenario, it's usually engaging with people because people will reply back, oh no, I don't need to see it. I was just asking a general question. But like, it's kind of like the home value thing where where people will, you know, some of the best leads are the people that reply, that's my home, my home's worth a lot more than that. You're like, okay, great, let's set an appointment so I can come see it. So just having something go out that acknowledges they filled out a form or they inquired about a property, then you know, I think getting back to them quickly. And those do include text. You can do a text there as well.
Right.
Tony has a great,
On the new leads. Yep.
Tony has a great question that I want to tackle now because it's related to the agent assignment here. And he just said, what is best if you want to assign leads manually? So couple of things. In that case, if you're assigning them to other people, then you know, you can just have the agent there be yourself. I'm not a huge fan of this, only because now it's up to two people's potential time frame as far as how quickly the lead's being responded to. I will give an example though. When I ran operations for a team directly, one of the things I did was assign out all the other leads to the agents automatically round robin. But the Zillow leads, this was probably 7-8 years ago, the Zillow leads were far and away our best leads, but they came from different areas. Some were listings. So I had those come to me. That specific lead flow came to me. I could look at it and say, oh, this is a 350 buyer in Alpharetta. I'm going to give that to Warren. So Tony, I hope that answers your question. Like the short answer is they can all come in assigned to you and you can reassign them. I would consider if there are some you can assign automatically and some sources that you might need to touch. But I'm a fan of leveraging the system to help you not have to touch every lead. Perfect. All right, cool. Yeah, he posted back. That was his scenario. So
Cool.
All right, perfect.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
and we had a.
yeah, go for
Go
it.
ahead.
No,
I was
you're
just
good.
saying we also have a comment in the chat about setting things up by zip code, price point, etc. So we're gonna we'll jump into that just a second. What were you gonna say, Lee?
No, that's where I was headed. So I think go
Okay,
ahead,
let's do
hit
it.
advanced is where it's at.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. So first of all, real fast, if you've already got advanced settings set up on your lead flow, or if you're going to set up advanced settings on your lead flow, there'll be a little bit of difference. So if your lead flow is simple, it's just going to have the 3 boxes. If you start setting up advanced settings, it's going to look like this. It's going to basically be a link over here or a link over here in settings on this particular lead flow. And over here, so let's take a quick look at what we've got available. Once you open this screen, when you open this screen to start with, and actually let me start from scratch. So let's say up here in my best real estate leads, we want to set up some advanced rules here. You start from scratch, you see that there's rule number 1 and a default rule. There's always a default rule. The way I want to start off describing this is think of this as a series of screens. From top to bottom, when the lead comes through Follow Boss, the lead is going to hit the top screen, and either the filters are either going to filter it or let it drop through. And even if you have 100 rules here, that lead's going to fall all the way through until it hits the filter that grabs it and assigns it that way that the rule is set up, or it's going to let it fall all the way to the bottom to the default rule. So when we look here, if you already, since we're starting from scratch, we're setting up some rules to begin with. And the first thing you want to do is consider if you've got how many conditions you're going to be putting in play. So for instance, if you want to do by zip code and price point, or just by zip code, or by specific tags that come in from the lead source, or even you can granulate down to a single property with MLS number. So if you've got a listing that you want to make sure goes to a single, that single agent, because that's an important listing. And let's say it's even if it's a luxury property that you've prepared a whole action plan about with videos and so forth and walkthroughs, you can granulate your leads down to that single property and have specific communication about it. But these are the criteria. So it can be tags, price, city or state or zip code, number or phone number. Now, and you can mix and match. You can have as many conditions in each rule as you want. So you can have some tags to include, and you can even have some tags to do not include. So you can kind of really filter down. One of the ones I see most often, and let's get rid of a couple of these, is just zip code and then price point. So you can filter both of them together. So if you have zip codes that you want to pinpoint to a specific agent or a specific team, there might, if you've got more than one person in your account and you want to make sure that it's going right to that agent or the agents in Alpharetta, like Lee mentioned, you put those zip codes in and you can just start typing them. And once you add one, then you can just click back in and add another. It can be time consuming if you cover a large area. But once you've got it set up, you don't have to, unless you have to edit it drastically, you shouldn't have to go in and change it very often. So let's say that you've got the zip code put in here. I'm going to use my home zip code up here in Maine, and then I want to look at the price. And if the price is greater than $350, and up here in Maine, that's a high-end property, just saying. And then we want that to go to a specific place, or even if it's just you, if you want a specific action plan to run on that. So we would add that to a specific agent or a specific group. And you do see ponds in here. Ponds is something that if you're a solo, you may not be making much use of. They can be useful, and you can have leads flow directly to a pond. I believe we are going to touch on that a little bit later, but you can have it assigned to any of those options. And here is where you can also granulate your lenders. If you've got more than one lender, you can actually, a couple of ways real quick, you can set up a round robin of lenders as well. So you can have a lender round robin as part of your lead flow, but at the same time, you can also pick and choose your lender if you've got two attached to your account or more. And this is also where you stipulate which action plan you want to go out on those particular leads with that in that particular zip code, with that particular price. What is the communication that you want to go out? It's pinpointed right there. Now, if you only have the one rule to set up, then everything that doesn't meet these criteria will fall down here to the default rule. So you want to make sure that this is set up accurately too. Don't miss putting an action plan on your default rule. That's going to skip all the specifics about the previous properties and the previous inquiries and the previous clients, but you still want to have another action plan involved. And it doesn't have to be a different action plan. They can be the same all day.
Yeah,
So
I want
those
to
are the
jump in with
basics.
one more example that people may know or may have specifically. So with Zillow now, specifically some of the Zillow Flex and some of those products, they are connecting a phone call to you ideally. And so what happens is when they connect that phone call to you directly, that lead's going to come in to Follow Boss after going through Zillow, tagged either Zillow connected or Zillow Nurture is another example, but I'll stick with the Zillow connected for now. If you're running an action plan that has a text that basically says like, hey, thanks for inquiring, or hey, is there a minute we can talk? Yet you're getting this phone call where it's a warm handoff, then you want to make sure that action plan is not running, because otherwise you're going to be on the phone with that person and they're going to get a text from you that's going to say, hey, is there a good time we can talk? So
right.
I mentioned this in our team's lead routing session, but I want to say it again and be really, I'll probably say it 5 more times while we're on. Spending the time to set this up will really pay dividends. Yes, it takes time and overall strategy to set it up, but it really will work for you once you get it. So I think dedicating that time to getting this right. And then, yeah, the Zillow Not Ready and Zillow Nurture literally say, this person is not ready to talk to an agent. So let's not send them an action plan that says, hey, when's a good time we can talk about your buying needs?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And I'm glad to see these two together because they both have the same, they can both be no communication. And that's part of the point of the initial action plan, is to get you connected. So if you are getting leads from Zillow Connect, or if you're getting, or any other source where you're getting that phone call first as that warm transfer, you may not need an action plan at all because you've already had a conversation with that person. And when they come into Follow Boss, you're going to be starting from a one-to-one relationship with that person. So having no action plan in that particular case works pretty well in those particular circumstances.
And Jeremy, that made me think of one more thing with Zillow and Homelight and Dave Ramsey and all these other lead sources, referral exchange, or I think that's what it's called. You have to update a separate back end. So this would be a great way to have in your action plan, have an action plan that says no initial text or email, but maybe 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later, a quick reminder to log into that source and update, or,
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe that action plan is more reminders to the agent than it is to the consumer.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Not to veer too far into action plans, but remember that action plans, or if you haven't explored action plans, so that's a whole nother call. But and we have some good resources on action plans on our YouTube channel, and some office hour sessions that we've done previously that you can watch recordings of. But from an action plan standpoint, remember that action plans in Follow Boss can also automate a process. So besides just creating tasks, you can also set things up so that other pieces fall into place later on.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, part of our agenda in this was to hit action plans a little bit. So I don't mind going into those some. Is there anything else in this lead flow? Let's definitely cover the copying. So once you get this right, you can
read my mind.
Yeah, I'll let you run with that.
Oh, thanks. So once you do have rules set up on one lead flow that you intend to use on other ones, so for instance, we've got these set up under Whispering Pines postcard. We can see that we have a rule here for Zillow Connect, Zillow Not Ready. We have a rule here to find phone number is empty. And then once you've got these set up, if you want to use these on another lead flow, you can jump in here to the new one that you just got started on, and you can click copy from other lead flows and open this up, and you can copy both rules or just one rule. And once you copy those rules over and save, then your advanced settings are set up the exact same way as your other rule. And even if they're not exactly the same, having a template of what you want to happen, even if you need to come in here on this particular lead source and update a tag or a couple of zip codes or a price point, at least you already have the basics here. You've got literally like a stencil that you can just fill in.
Yeah, and actually, I got something that'll segue us into action plans, because I think one of the important, we talked about price, but I want to also go a little deeper on price, just in the sense of maybe separating out rentals from purchases. So
exactly.
And this is a little tricky. You need to look at your lead sources, because some lead sources will come in with a 0, but it'll just be because it's a seller lead or something. So I can't give you a blanket answer, but you need to check your sources. One of the things I do, because you can say price is less than, say, 30,000 or whatever.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to do greater than 1 and less than 30,000, because sometimes a different lead will come in with a 0. So anyway, just be mindful of that 0 could possibly be an inquiry and not a $0 inquiry. But this is a great way to separate out rentals, whether you send them to somebody else, whether you don't work rentals, but you want to have an auto response that just goes out and it's like, hey, I don't work rentals, but call this guy, or hey, we don't cover rentals, but I can get you the listing agent's info if that's interesting. Just whatever it is. One of the things that happened, again, when I was in this role directly, the only bad reviews we ever had were rental leads that either fell through the cracks or something happened. Nobody ever got back to them. And so we would have every now and then a bad review that would just say, I guess my money isn't good enough for these guys. I was just looking to do a rental and nobody called me back. And so at the very least, an auto response that just says, hey, that's just not something we're experts in, word it well, that we're not experts in rentals, but we can refer you to somebody or get you the listing agent's info or something to that effect.
Exactly. And just to kind of circle back, some sources will come through with a tag that says rental, or like, or in some cases like Zillow rental, or if you use Zumper, or there's a couple others in there that aren't popping directly to mind. Those are rental sources, and they would show up. They would show up separately. So if you have Zillow leads flowing in and you have agreed to take Zillow rentals, Zillow will have generally a buyer's pipeline that looks like this. There'll be a seller's pipeline for seller leads from Zillow, and there should also be a Zillow rentals pipeline. And then for your other lead sources, if it is a rentals only, it would also show up with the name of the source generally, and you can control it very specifically for those rental leads.
Awesome. Cool. So let me look at these questions super quick before we move on, just so I see if they're related to this. Tony, we'll circle that when we hit action plans. That's good. Christian said, automated emails, how do you improve open rate? Totally. There's a couple of good answers to that. So
Yeah,
it looks like we're into action plans. So an action plan is a series of things that happen. And like we talked about, the third blank there in the lead flow is a way to just automatically fire that action plan. That's all it does. You have to make the action plan. The lead flow simply fires that plan. And so perfect. So this is one that's in the library that Jeremy just pulled up.
Yeah, this is actually if when I talk with a new client who's just getting started with Follow Boss, or maybe even just getting started with the CRM at all, this is one of the action plans that I point to is get started with this. It's simple, but it can be effective for you. For new leads, it comes with an auto text responder that's going to go out automatically on those new leads as they come in through to Follow Boss. And it's basically a series of really simple kind of conversational emails. So from to Christian's point, with automated emails, a couple of things that I always talk about is, first of all, you want to make the subject line. That's the thing people notice first off when they have an email in front of them. Not too many folks have like the email pop up on their screen, as part of their inbox. So the subject line is what you really want to, where you would really like to kind of focus and see if you can make it catchy. In this particular one, house hunting, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not particularly catchy, but you can do some stuff in Follow Boss that can make it even better. So for instance, on this one, you could add, we have merge fields in our email templates that pull information directly into the email from the contact. So the merge field that says like contact first name and then put a question mark after it. This makes the subject line pop a lot more than just house hunting. House hunting, Jeremy, question mark, engages that person like, oh, this person's talking to me. That's my name. And you can get tricky with this. You can get kind of strategic. I know I watched a webinar a while back about, it was a Follow Plus client. Basically, their first email that they sent everyone was like, is this your phone number? And put their phone number right in the subject line of the email. And he said he got in the 90 percentile of responses because people wonder like, who is this person who has my phone number? So you can be strategic, be a little, be a little, I don't know, be yourself, be friendly, be conversational, try to engage them. How would you engage a person that you were talking to face to face? It's generally the best way of coming up with a subject line and lead conversion emails too. So for open rate, subject line is great. If they are looking, the other thing that I see a lot, Lee, and maybe I'll let you respond to this, is a lot of folks are starting to add video into their opening emails to introduce themselves and kind of brand the response a little bit better. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, it's interesting. There's a lot of different algorithms at work, whether you're a Google or a Microsoft sender, obviously, your overall reputation score is a factor as far as going to spam or not going to spam. I also want to make sure we get to the business registration thing, Jeremy. So let me not forget that as well, especially if you're a solo or you're the owner. That's definitely a thing. But yeah, I agree. Subject line is big. Another merge code you can use is the actual property address they inquired on. Now, obviously, you need to send that to a source that has an address. If you don't have an address, then that's. And the good thing is, if the data doesn't exist, it will just be blank. So that's something you can help kind of strategize around, like, okay, well, if I word this well and there's no inquiry address, it won't be totally stupid. But yeah, I think inquiry address either in the email or in the subject line, referencing the source, if that's a possibility. And the source is also a merge code. Just be careful that your source isn't like my website or something. So if somebody literally like gets an email that's like, hey, thanks for searching on, like people don't know they're searching on Homelight necessarily. Well, Homelight's a bad example, but people don't always know if they're on that source. But, honestly, if you get an email that says, that house from Zillow, like if you were just on Zillow and you inquired and you get an email that says that house from Zillow, you're going to open it,
That's true. That's another great tactic. Be tactical. I mean, so, hey, Jeremy, up here, this could be, oops, sorry, it popped out of it, but it could be Jeremy still interested in inquiry address and that through. Now, some small lead sources or private websites or so forth that don't have forms and so forth embedded may not pull that inquiry address over cleanly either. So check the information that comes through your lead sources before you decide that you want to use a merge field on, like blanketly across your sources. But other than that, the contact information is generally there. So at least putting someone's name or something in the subject line can be engaging, and you're going to have that. So if you are starting off slow and starting off with something small, the merge fields for contact name and so forth can be really helpful there.
Yeah, that's great. And then obviously, I assume people know this, but just could you real quick click on the email templates just so we can see
Sure.
So there are open rates, click rates, for that overall template. So be mindful that that can be part of your strategy.
Absolutely, that we provide this data right back to you. So Christian, you're going to be able to click into your email template and get this data on the templates that you're using to see what those are doing. Where are you getting unsubscribes? Where are you getting bounces? What's your open and click rate and so forth. Especially clicks. If you're embedding a link in your email, even the first one, that maybe it's just right back to your own website. So, check more stuff out here and put a link into your own website. That if they click there, that's a much more engaged client than someone who's only opened your email. And so a click is a great way of following up. If you've sent emails and you're getting good clicks, that's a way to make a short list for additional response, additional outreach. We also provide information on text templates. So on text templates, if you can create email templates and text templates anytime you want, and use our merge fields to make them specific, to make them responsive and personalized. But at the same time, keep an eye on this page, because even if emails are going to spam, spam filters on texting are so much tighter. So if you're sending text messages effectively through Follow Up Boss, you can also check here. And these do include any templates that you've attached to action plans. If you're sending a text template as part of your action plan, and I'll just go back here really fast. So if I have an initial text message here and I've got an existing template that I want to use, then the data will roll up from your action plans onto that page as well to see if you're getting good response from those texts.
Yeah, checking that scoring is super important. I think it's and then making small tweaks. I don't want to go too far off course, but I do want to mention the business registration real quick. I think that's
Let's do that real fast.
Okay.
It's on 2 pages. It's under phone numbers or under company. If you don't have calling, then you don't have the phone numbers page per se, but you can click up here on your company settings as well. So register your business profile. Yeah. Lee, why don't you start off?
Yeah, so this is like, it's pretty simple. I mean, you do need, I think, your EIN number. There's a couple of, maybe has that changed? Actually, I don't even see EIN on the, there's options now.
Right.
So it could be your LLC or your EIN, but this is basically verifying your company as a real company. Like, I'm not a spammer, but here's how I can verify that I'm a real entity. And then Follow Up Boss actually pushes this out to all the cell phone carriers to basically just say, this guy's legit. Like, they're a real company. They're using our platform. This isn't just somebody who, set up a free account a free trial so they could spam a bunch of people. And so the carriers then will register. I don't know if any of you noticed, but I think iPhone, at least in particular, last time I had a call from an unknown number, it had a tiny little icon with a check in it that said this person is verified. Like, this is a verified, this is a real phone number.
Yeah. This is an initiative, so text marketing regulations got a lot tighter the spring of 2020. Another great, result from 2020. But this is a way to make sure that you're not going to get tied up in all those regulations. This is a way to keep your text flowing through when the spammers are actually the ones who are going to get caught in those nets. And some of those regulations were really kind of subtle. Like, for instance, I think one of those, and every carrier is responsible for policing their own customers and their inbound messages from other customers. So, and every carrier had a different system. So for instance, I believe it was T-Mobile. We had a big problem with T-Mobile. Clients across the country, like last spring, all of a sudden started saying, I can't text anybody the word credit report anymore, or credit score, or FICO score, because T-Mobile had flagged all those terms as spam terms. But now with this initiative, if you register your business as a business type that legitimately speaks about credit, then those texts are going to flow through, and you're going to get those messages through that you need to send.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of red tape here, but again, once this is done, we pump it out to all the other phone carriers to help smooth the way for your communication.
Yeah, and can you show real quick again how you got to this? It's under admin.
Yeah, so under admin, it's in two places: the company page, and make sure while you're on here, make sure you're setting all this information up, and also on the phone numbers page. So on the phone numbers page, it's up here right above your company number. Even if you don't have other phone numbers, you'll have a company number.
And you probably just got an email about it too if you're the account owner, but just saying.
That's true. We're trying to get a lot of communication out there about this.
I think September 15th.
And we'll be making a big push.
Yeah.
October 21st, I think.
Let's say September 15th.
Okay, let's say September 15th. Keep everyone on their toes. Yeah, exactly.
bonus points for doing that. So I would definitely recommend doing that ASAP. I've already done it for us, and I've it's hard to really tell if you've seen a difference, but I'm not having any deliverability issues. So definitely recommend that. So let's hop back into action plans, and we can tackle. Tony's had a question too, said start SoloFlex soon. Any sample action plans? This is a kind of a hot button of mine, because, like, to me, I know everybody wants like a magical action plan. I think part of the thing here is, like, we're all in different markets. Sometimes it's a buyer's market, sometimes it's a seller's market. Like, it's really hard to have, are you a team? Are you a solo? Like, do you have an assistant? Like, there's always these nuances that are important. There are a chunk of plans in here that are pretty good, and you can edit them. So
yep.
I would potentially start with these. There's also a library. How do you even get to the library? There we go.
On this page, before you click into the folders, yeah, we click browse. There's almost 700 action plans in here now that have all been volunteered here by other Follow Up Boss clients. So if you are in the library, while we do have our own section with 7, it will always be generic. These don't mention other teams or specific information about any company or so forth. But the action plan library, no matter what subject you're looking for, you always want to proofread these. The authors are always listed after them, and you can preview them, right here on the screen to see what the steps do. So like this one is a text message and some emails. no tasks or other actions in this one. And if you like it, you can copy it to your account. But once you copy it, also, if you've already previewed it, make sure that you're looking to make sure that they mention themselves specifically in the text, or mention their company specifically in the text, or their market. Make sure that you're editing it and proofreading to make sure that this is going to apply to your team once you've got it in your account.
Yeah, and a lot of those have their website links, or, you know, thanks for contacting the so-and-so team.
Yeah, it's like, here we go.
Yeah. But the plans are good. I mean, a lot of the plans are good. Just make sure that you go in and put your own URL or your own team name or your own name into them real quick.
Exactly. And it's a big library, and it's not just going to go ahead and throw this out there. You kind of have to just search. There's no way of figuring out exactly what each one says unless you preview it. So take a look at the category you're interested in first, and quite often the newest are always going to be at the top. So if you want some of the older tried and true ones, go down a few and see what's fallen in here.
But I think let's hop now to building them, because quite honestly, like,
Yeah.
I like pulling in some of those plans, but I think sometimes people have a fear of building them, and they're really pretty simple
Yeah,
to build here.
absolutely. So if you're setting up an action plan that's going to go out in your lead flow, like we've said, it can contain the initial text message. Real quick clarification: if this is an action plan meant for an existing lead that's been in your system for at least even like an hour, the initial text message isn't available. It only goes out on those new leads. And that's kind of because that first text is kind of a freebie. It's basically a contact attempt, and you get that one attempt. If someone opts out, then, you know, Follow Up Boss reads that and opts them out of any other texting. But we also you get a chance to try. And if they respond, then you're golden. If they say, no, thank you, please don't text me, then, you know, you haven't done it, then nobody's done anything wrong. It's a contact attempt. But any action plan that contains an initial email can be run elsewhere, you know, other times in a client's lifecycle, but the initial text message will not be part of the action plan. I just want to state that off the bat.
Yeah.
So you can build it so it has an initial action plan, and let's just pull up a quick template in here. And then when you start off, you can also determine, is this an action plan I want to pause automatically if someone responds to me? That's a great setting to have on if it's meant for engaging that customer, because if they do respond, you've engaged them. It's done its job. And once you have that conversation with the person you're engaged with to find out what their disposition is, then they probably are going to need a different action plan, because this one's just about getting them through the door. Then you want to talk to them more specifically about their needs. Excuse me.
You're good. Do you want to tackle this question? Kelly has a good question. It says, if they say stop on the initial text, but then you talk to them and they want to be texted, how do you make their phone number good again? It actually, and Jeremy, tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't, that's the reason there's only the one automated text. You should still be able to text them back one-to-one through the system. There's just no automation happening anyway. And so the stop only stops an initial automation. So the short answer is it shouldn't stop from that.
Right, exactly.
It does turn orange, but you can still I believe you can still text them through the system. I might have to check with support on that one.
Yeah, you can also one of the easiest ways to make it so for emails, you do have to contact our support team to resubscribe an email if someone unsubscribed by mistake. But for a phone number, it actually generally works to delete the phone number and put it back in. If you put it back in, if you delete it off a contact record and then add it back, it shouldn't stay orange. Because and then if you're texting them one-to-one, it's not going to prevent you from texting.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call, Jeremy. I think that's right. And I'll verify that with support just to be 100%, but that sounds right.
All right, so that's the one setting that the action plan will pause if the person responds. And then the other one, include all email addresses for email steps. This is a newer feature that we just added a few weeks ago that's going to allow this action plan. So if there are multiple emails associated with the account, or if this is an action plan that you're going to use on existing leads where there might be relationships built onto your follow-up boss lead profile, then this is going to make sure that any emails associated with the action plan are going to go to everybody on that contact, all of them on the contact. The other thing I want to mention here is this setting for delaying your text. You can delay your text for up to 15 minutes. I generally recommend that you should delay your first text by a minute or two, because if I click on a button on my computer and I get a text message right away, I know that's fake. And that's what will happen if someone clicks inquiry and that lead hits follow-up boss in less than a second, and then this text will get sent automatically immediately. That doesn't feel real. That doesn't feel personal. So delay your message 1 or 2 minutes, and you're going to get more people believing that it's actually you texting, because you want your language here and you don't want to waste that opportunity. And then when you start building an action plan, real quick, I just want to introduce the other things action plans can do before I show you how to start doing email steps and task steps. So this is the list of the actions that an action plan can perform. We can change the stage, add notes, add and remove tags, add and remove collaborators. That's not necessarily going to be, germane for folks who are out there doing it yourself, but collaborators is a great way for teams to stay organized and bring other people into the mix on specific types of leads. You can also control other action plans if it's going to be something you're working on for a later in the life cycle. You can make sure that when this action plan is activated, it would pause all other action plans so they're not getting multiple automated strings of messaging.
And I want to, before we
So,
get too crazy with that, I should probably save this for the end of this part, but that change stage thing I think is big. Because if you have people come in as a lead and you do 5 steps, or you email them, or you do all that, I'm a big fan of putting at the end a tag that may say like Zillow lead not converted or whatever, and then changing the stage to, a nurture or a long-term nurture or a didn't connect or whatever.
Ever since Lee introduced me to this concept last spring, this is something I drive home with every new team that I start with, especially folks who are out there adminning your own account. Making this first initial action plan into a clock to basically switch someone over and switch them off your lead as a new lead at a certain point in time is really helpful, because the stage change or the tag can trigger another automation that can start another action plan. For instance, in this particular case, we usually say that a lead after 10 days is no longer, you shouldn't be calling someone every day after the 10th day. They're not a viable new lead anymore after about 10 days. And in some markets, it's a lot shorter. But on day 11, on day 11, if the 10 days is the time that you're going to be calling, texting, and emailing this person as a real lead conversion, on day 11, decide what you want to have done with them. And as lead, so actually, and because I've been with Follow Boss for 2 years, Lee planted this seed even before that nurture is the best place for someone to go who you didn't convert, because you don't know their disposition. Reaching out to them, through a nurture action plan after that lead cycle is going to be effective as anything else. And if you want to, again, keep it simple, switching them over to nurture and having this trigger a nurture style action plan that's going to keep them on a drip, quote unquote, for the better part of a year. There's no harm in that, no foul, and it might work, because we have other tools in the system that surface those folks if they fly back up in your radar. But having that clock, super helpful. So having the last step do something, like Lee said, tag it as not converted, change the stage. That's fantastic work there that you don't have to do yourself every single time. All right, and Jen, just to kind of close the loop on the communication. So if this is going to be a communication only action plan, or an action plan to help with communication and provide you some reminders about specific actions you want to perform, like going in and updating the Zillow, the back end of Zillow on a Zillow Flex account, or just reminding you to use texting. And you can say something like, so this could be an email that would go out immediately as well. And it could be, simple email. And then step number 2 could happen so then you can also time it to go on specific days. So this one happens on day 0. This email goes out automatically. If you put a 1 here on day 2, this can be a task, and the task can be text. And when you create a task in an action plan, please be specific. If you want to use a specific template that you've got set up, put in text template number 2, or whatever it's called, new buyer or something along those lines. And then make sure that the task type is also specific, because your task list, if you haven't been introduced that yet, can be filtered by the type of task. So if you're sitting down to do your outreach for the day, focusing on your calls and texting tasks is going to make sure that you're performing those, you're getting those off your plate, so that and because if you're using tasks effectively with Follow Boss, we're hopefully that you're minimizing your tasks to just what is needed on a day-to-day basis. So make it say text under task type, and then you do have a choice of who you assign it to. Most of the time, again, if you're out there, if you're handling this yourself, you've got a small group, it's going to be the agent assigned to the contact. But in some cases, as you can see here, lender assigned to the contact is also a choice. And to circle back, this is what I mentioned when an action plan can contain email communication from the lender and the agent. You can have emails going out same day or alternating days, one from the agent, one from the lender, et cetera, et cetera. You can also use a task and assign it to someone specific. In some cases, that's really helpful for specific workflows, or if at a certain point you want an ISA or just someone else on your team to kind of take over, is something else you can automate in an action plan. So those are the basic controls. You choose what action each step is going to do. Then you choose, if it's an email template, you choose the template. If it's a task or anything else that requires naming, name it completely. And if it's anything else, let's just go down here and click like add note. Adding a note is a specific notification that you can send to yourself. It works like the @mention functionality from the lead profile screen. It's a great way of surfacing specific information about a particular type of lead at the right time. And you can use merge fields in a note as well to tie this note directly back to the person you're talking about or talking to. And then you can, on a note, you can determine who you want it to go to on your team. Again, if you're a solo, this may not be applicable, but if you've got any other team members, you can target the communication very specifically. And then for the other ones, adding and removing collaborators, basically you just choose from the list of other people or tags. You just choose from the list of what's available. And then the last ones down at the bottom, pause all other action plans is a general command. And then if you pause specific action plans, you get to choose which action plan that is. So pretty basic. It's not, as Lee said, it's more simple than you let on, or more simple than it lets on to be. And sometimes it feels daunting to look at that and like, what do I do? But if you start simple, consider, how often you want to communicate with your clients and what you want to say ahead of time. Yourself, how you would talk to a person, what conversations have been successful for you, and just make those part of your lead conversion and put yourself out there in your email templates and text templates too.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the perfect advice. And if you guys have questions, throw us a quick question. We have just a couple more minutes, but I think to wrap with that, unless we have specific questions, is really great. And again, I didn't say it 5 times at least, but I think again, taking time to sit down and really think through this, or, if that's not your thing, throw one together and watch it work. Put a note in your calendar a month from now, like, hey, check on action plan. But really, I mean, seriously, this almost makes this system act as like a VA or an assistant. Like you can program, for lack of a better word, that's probably a scary word to use, but you can basically set up your follow-up boss to completely leverage it like another team member. But to Jeremy's point, like I love the way that you said it, how you would speak to them. So to use the system to emulate a little more how you would ideally, want to communicate with them, I think is just really smart. And yeah, to this point too, there is a little bit of reporting on action plans. So you can see how many are running. What's the engagement defined as again? Can you go over the question mark? I can never remember.
Yeah, the engagement is actually if the person responds or if the action plan is paused. If the person actually, so this is showing how successful you're being. If you're manually pausing an action plan, it's generally a good sign that you've gotten in touch with the person another way, or if even if they didn't respond directly to the action plan, you've gotten in touch with them and you're manually pausing it. So it's showing again the engagement percentage, the folks who actually applied. So these numbers, so active is going to be the ones currently running. Complete are going to be the total number of times this action plan has run completely. And then the engagement percentage is how many of those completed action plans have resulted in a contact.
That's great. That's so cool. So yeah, I love that. So cool. And as always, you can reach out to support at Follow Boss if you have specific items to you. You can also, let's show them the question mark super quick too. If you go up in the right hand and click on the question mark.
Oh yeah.
A ton of options there, including Follow Up Boss Academy.
Yeah, that's brand new. That just came out this Monday. We've rolled some curriculums into a page here to help you keep you on the strategic path on how to best use Follow Up Boss 2. Conversion University is sales training by Dale Archdeacon, a fantastic curriculum of nice bite-sized pieces of learning. I don't think anything's longer than 15 minutes in here, and it's all like fantastic stuff to really sink your teeth into about how to improve what you're doing already, no matter what stage you're at. And then Follow Up Boss 101. This is a getting started curriculum that we're just starting to build out. And we also have our amazing Bosses in Action series in here and upcoming events. Here's ours right here. So this is a cool new link that you can check in on and click on and get a lot of strategic information. The Bosses in Action series also on the YouTube channel. I know Lee put the address in the chat earlier. And also our Facebook community is available. We have a link to our Facebook community up here as well. You can join and have a ton of amazing peer-to-peer conversations going on in there, along with previews, and you get to know more about what we're pumping out here on these webinars, office hours and so forth, a little bit ahead of time.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you guys for being here. Jeremy, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys, and I hope to see you on a future office hours.